It started out innocently, the way most habits do. One person forgetting their wallet, another promising to Venmo later, me saying, "Don't worry, I've got it." The first time I covered dinner for the group, it felt good, empowering even. I had just landed my first decent job after years of freelancing, and treating my friends felt like proof that I'd finally made it. There were 6 of us: me, Lauren, Jake, Sasha, and the twins, Eli and Erin. We'd been inseparable since college, bound by inside jokes and the kind of loyalty that only feels unbreakable before real life starts testing it. Every Friday night, we met for dinner at different restaurants around the city. It became our tradition, our escape from adulthood. At first, everyone took turns paying, but gradually that rhythm changed. Someone would forget their card. Someone else would say, "Can you get it this time? I'll pay you back next week." The paybacks never came, but I didn't mind. I told myself that's what friendship was: generosity without keeping score. I'd always been the giver in our group, the one who remembered birthdays, picked people up from the airport, bought the first round of drinks. It made me feel needed, and maybe, deep down, I needed to feel needed. But after a year, the numbers started to add up. Not just in my bank account, but in the small ways people began to treat me differently. They expected me to pay. The waiter would bring the check, and all eyes would quietly turn to me. No one even asked anymore. It wasn't malicious. At least it didn't look that way. It was just understood. I remember one night particularly well. We were at a trendy rooftop restaurant downtown, the kind where you pay more for the view than the food. Everyone ordered cocktails, appetizers, desserts, the kind of careless indulgence that comes easier when you know someone else will cover it. When the check came, Lauren laughed and said, "Our sponsor's got us again." The table erupted in laughter. I smiled, but something inside me cracked. Sponsor. That's what I'd become. Not a friend, a walking credit card with a smile. That night I went home, opened my banking app and stared at the numbers. I'd spent almost $6,000 on dinners in the past year. 6,000. That was a down payment, a vacation, a small dream slipping away one receipt at a time. I told myself it didn't matter. Money came and went, but loyalty was priceless. Except, loyalty was starting to feel like something I was renting, not owning. A few weeks later, something small but significant happened. I got sick. Nothing serious, just the kind of flu that knocks you down for a week. I texted the group to say I couldn't make dinner. They still went without me, of course, and sent pictures of their food in the group chat with captions like, "Missing our banker," followed by laughing emojis. I laughed along, pretending it didn't sting, but it did. The next day, Lauren stopped by with soup, which I appreciated, until I saw the receipt taped to the container with a note. "Venmo me $12 when you're feeling better." I stared at it for a long time, unsure whether to laugh or cry. I started pulling away after that. Not dramatically, I just stopped offering to pay. The first night I didn't reach for the bill. There was a moment of confusion, a pause long enough for everyone to notice. Jake cleared his throat and said, I left my wallet in the car," and the others followed suit with excuses that sounded rehearsed. I waited, silent, until finally I said, "I'll get my part," and placed cash for my share on the table. The looks that followed were uncomfortable, as if I'd broken some unspoken contract. That was the first time we didn't hug goodbye. The next morning, I woke up to a message from Lauren. "Is everything okay? You seemed off last night." I typed a reply, deleted it, then wrote back, "Just tired. Work's been crazy." She responded with a heart emoji, the digital version of brushing something under the rug. Months passed. Our dinners became less frequent, our group chat quieter. I started saying no more often, to outings, to drinks, to last-minute get-togethers. The less I showed up, the less they asked. That's how friendships die sometimes, not with betrayal, but with slow neglect. Then, one afternoon, while cleaning my apartment, I found something that made my stomach drop. It was an envelope tucked inside a pile of mail, the kind of thing you might overlook if you weren't paying attention. The return address was from a restaurant we'd visited months earlier. At first, I assumed it was a duplicate receipt, maybe a mistake. But when I opened it, I froze. Inside was a printed invoice with a handwritten note at the bottom. "Per your request, we've processed the reimbursement for your friends' dinners as agreed." Attached was a list, my name and the names of all 5 of them, with amounts next to each. I read it 3 times before it clicked. My card had been charged for the dinners, but the refunds, large chunks, had gone to their cards. Somehow, they'd arranged it. I sat down, heart pounding, mind racing back through every meal, every laugh, every "thank you, you're the best." I realised the truth. They hadn't just been forgetting to pay me back. They'd been intentionally making sure I paid more. My hands shook as I dug through old emails, looking for the receipts I'd never really paid attention to. Sure enough, there were small discrepancies in the totals. Charges that didn't match what I'd signed for. Tips inflated, extra drinks added, payments rerouted. And always, the refunds sent elsewhere. The betrayal wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the planning, the cooperation. They had done it together. I texted Lauren first. Hey, did you ever get a refund from that rooftop place last spring? She replied almost instantly. What refund? I sent her a photo of the invoice. She didn't reply for hours. When she finally did, the message was short. Can we talk in person? That night we met at a quiet coffee shop. She looked nervous, pale, eyes darting everywhere but mine. I didn't know you'd find that, she said softly. We were going to pay you back. By defrauding me first? I asked, my voice shaking. It wasn't like that, she said. Jake said you didn't mind covering for us. He said you liked it. You were always so generous, I interrupted. That gave you permission to steal. Tears welled in her eyes. You don't understand. Things got tight for some of us. It started as one dinner, then it just kept going. No one meant to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you meant to lie, repeatedly. She reached across the table, but I pulled my hand back. We're sorry, she whispered. Please don't tell anyone. I looked at her for a long time before saying, You already told me everything I needed to know. I stood up and left, my legs numb, my chest heavy. That night I blocked all 5 of them. I thought that would be the end of it. I didn't realise the story was only halfway written. The days that followed were quiet in the most painful way. I thought that once I cut them off, the anger would fade, but it didn't. It stayed under my skin, humming like a low fever. Every time my phone lit up, I half expected one of them to try again, to apologise properly, to explain that it was all some misunderstanding, but no one did. It was like I'd been erased. The group chat I'd once checked every hour went silent, and one by one, they removed me from social media. It was cruel, how easy it was for them to pretend I'd never existed outside of the dinners I paid for. I tried to convince myself that walking away made me stronger, but the truth was messier. At night, I replayed every moment, Lauren's nervous laugh, Jake's charm, the twins' inside jokes, Sasha's soft apologies. I kept thinking, how long were they planning it? Who came up with the idea first? It was the not knowing that gnawed at me, the realisation that while I was memorising their coffee orders and remembering their birthdays, they were figuring out how to use me. Hey, a week later, I got a letter from my bank. My stomach flipped as I opened it. It was a notification about suspicious transactions, small refunds from restaurants I hadn't visited recently. The dates matched our old dinner nights. Somehow, someone was still using my information. I spent 2 hours on hold before finally speaking to a representative. They confirmed multiple accounts had been linked to my card in shared payment systems. I felt sick. They must have stored my card on their devices when I passed it around for checks. I'd handed them my trust and my financial access all at once. The next day, I filed a report. The officer was polite but detached, as if I were just another story on his list. Do you have proof they did it intentionally? He asked. I handed over the invoices, the emails, the texts. They used my card for months, I said. That's proof enough. He nodded slowly, typing on his computer. We'll investigate, but these things take time. Sometimes it's better to resolve it privately. I almost laughed. Privately. There was nothing private left. My friendships had been turned into transactions, and my generosity into evidence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the kitchen floor with my laptop, scrolling through old photos of us. Beach trips, game nights, birthdays. In every picture, I was smiling the widest, paying the bill, holding the camera, making sure everyone else looked perfect. It hit me then. I wasn't part of their group because they loved me. I was part of it because I made everything easier. I filled the gaps. I paid for the moments they wanted to remember and the ones they didn't want to take responsibility for. I thought about deleting all the photos, but I didn't. I left them as they were, a record of how far I'd go to be liked. A month passed before I heard from any of them again. One afternoon, as I was leaving work, I saw Lauren waiting near the parking lot. She looked thinner, paler, her confidence stripped away. Please don't walk away, she said when she saw me. Just hear me out. Against my better judgment, I stopped. She told me that things had gotten out of hand after I left. The others turned on each other when the police started asking questions. Jake had panicked and blamed everything on her. He said it was my idea, she said, voice trembling. But it wasn't. It was his. He told us it wasn't really stealing, that you'd never notice. She wiped her eyes. He said you'd been bragging about how much money you made. I stared at her, stunned. I never said that. I know, she whispered. I think he just wanted to feel like it was okay, like he was taking from someone who wouldn't miss it. The bitterness rose in my throat like bile. And you believed him. She looked away. I wanted to. We all did. It made it easier. Something in me broke then, not in anger, but in sadness. There's a special kind of heartbreak that comes when you realise people you once loved didn't just fail you, they justified it. They told themselves stories to make their betrayal bearable. Lauren handed me an envelope. It's not everything, but it's something. My share. Inside were a few $100s in cash. I didn't take it. Keep it, I said. You're the one who's going to need it. I walked away before she could answer. A few days later, I got a call from the detective assigned to my case. They had traced multiple refunds and confirmed fraudulent activity. It wasn't enough for criminal charges. The sums were too low for prosecution, he said. But the restaurants involved had blacklisted the cards linked to the refunds. My former friends would find out soon enough. Justice, maybe, but not the satisfying kind. It didn't undo what they'd done. That night, I took myself to dinner, alone, at a small Italian place by the water. The waiter asked if I was waiting for someone, and I said, no, just me. It felt strange at first, ordering for one, sitting in silence while couples and groups filled the room around me. But as the food arrived, I felt something shift. The quiet didn't feel empty anymore. It felt honest. After dinner, I paid the bill, for myself and only myself, and walked home lighter than I'd felt in months. A few weeks later, I got a message on social media from Sasha. She wrote, I'm so sorry. I don't know if you'll ever forgive us. You didn't deserve any of it. Jake moved to another city. The twins won't talk to anyone. Lauren's trying to fix things with you, but maybe we're all beyond fixing. I read it twice, then deleted it. I didn't need closure from people who'd already shown me who they were. Instead, I started making new friends. Slowly, cautiously. People from work, a few from a writing group I joined on weekends. I learned to split checks again, to say, let's go half. At first, my hands shook when I handed my card over, but with time, I stopped expecting betrayal. Not everyone is out to take. Some people just want to share the meal. One afternoon, months later, I ran into Erin, one of the twins, at a coffee shop. She froze when she saw me. Her hair was different, her smile smaller. Hey, she said awkwardly. You look good. Thanks. She hesitated before speaking again. I just wanted to say, I didn't know how deep it went. Jake handled the payments. We just went along. I swear I didn't know about the refunds. I looked at her for a long moment. Maybe you didn't, but you knew something was wrong. You all did. Her eyes filled with tears. I know, and I'm sorry. I nodded. I hope you're doing better now. As I walked away, I realized I didn't hate them anymore. Not forgiving them didn't mean holding on to anger. It just meant I'd stopped carrying their guilt. A year after everything, I received an email from the same rooftop restaurant where we'd once laughed over overpriced cocktails. They were hosting a reunion event for their old regulars, offering complimentary dinner for those who'd spent the most there. My name was on the list. I almost laughed at the irony. The one who'd paid for everyone else had finally earned a free meal. That night, I went, alone. I sat at the same table we used to share, the skyline glittering outside. The waiter asked if I'd be joined by friends. No, I said, just me. I ordered a glass of wine, raised it to the empty seats and whispered, here's to lessons worth paying for. The truth is, I don't regret being generous. I regret not realizing sooner that kindness without boundaries isn't love, it's self-erasure. I spent years buying friendship, but the real debt was emotional. I kept paying interest on loyalty that wasn't real. Now, when I go out with people, I listen for laughter that sounds genuine, not grateful. I keep my wallet in my purse until it's my turn, and when someone says, I'll get this one, I let them. Because friendship isn't a transaction. It's the space where giving and taking feel the same. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about them. Where they ended up, whether they ever think of me. Maybe they do. Maybe they tell the story differently, painting themselves as people who made a mistake. That's fine. I've written my version. Mine's about learning that generosity doesn't mean saying yes. It means knowing when to stop paying for people who keep taking. And if anyone ever asks me why I eat alone these days, I tell them the truth. It's not that I don't trust people anymore, it's that I finally trust myself. Crazy Reddit stories, wild twists, and real drama. Subscribe, comment your take, and stay for the next tale.